Is good. Whenever you're ready, President English.
All right. Well, good afternoon. Welcome to the June meeting of Tampa Historic Streetcar, Inc. I'm Michael English, and I'm the chairman of the board. Welcome. I'd like to call the meeting to order and ask us to say the Pledge of Allegiance. It may be up there. It is. I pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic one nation under God, liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. Danielle, will you do the roll call, please?
Yes, sir. Please say here after your name is called. President English.
Here.
Director Doring-Ahern.
Here, present.
Director Hardin.
Present.
Director Hardy.
Present.
Director Kemp. Director Mechanic.
Here.
You do have a quorum.
Thank you very much. Our General Counsel, David Smoker, will read into the record the rules for participation in a virtual meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First off, thank you for your participation in this virtual meeting. The change of meeting location from in-person at the Hart Administrative Office to a virtual meeting is pursuant to Executive Order number 20-69, issued by the Governor of the State of Florida on March 20, 2020, and Section 120.54 Florida statutes. Due to social distancing, the boardroom in the EBOR administrative offices of Hart is inaccessible for personnel facilitating the meeting. Please keep your devices and phones muted when not speaking. Muting the sound and microphone on your device helps to avoid feedback. Please do not enable the video camera on your devices and discontinue all personal conversations for the duration of the meeting. Please follow along with a copy of the meeting agenda and materials sent via email. All presentations will be shared on the screen while presented. Roll call will be taken for attendance and voting by staff. Quorum and voting results will be announced. Please wait to announce your attendance until your name is called during the roll call. There will be an opportunity for members of the public who have pre-registered with staff to provide comments, and I will read into the record the public comment participation rules. During the meeting, please wait until the President asks for comments or questions from board members for each agenda item as the meeting progresses through the agenda. When you want to provide a comment or ask a question, please signal that you want to speak by activating the hand button in the white circle next to the name on your screen. The hand will turn blue when activated. Staff will read the hands raised in order for the President to acknowledge. Then the participant may unmute their device and speak. Please speak your name before you comment. Presenters, please note that all presentations will be controlled by staff. Ensure that you state your name, title, and company organization for the record. Also, please say next slide when needed, and staff will progress through the presentation. Thank you. As far as the public comment participation rules go, first of all, the board welcomes public comments on any issues and concerns that has made provision to allow virtual public comment. Public comments offered virtually will be afforded equal consideration as if they were offered in person. Anyone wanting to provide public comment for any THS board meeting should contact Danielle Arthur, Board Administrator, at arthurd@gohart.org. That's ARTHUR capital D at GOHART.org, or at 813-955-2426 with your name and phone number for pre-registration. Comments are due by 5 p.m. The day previous to the meeting. Staff will call on speakers by name in the order in which the registrations were received. All callers will be muted upon calling and unmuted in the submission order after being recognized by name. Please state your full name and organization and address if desired. Up to 3 minutes are allowed for each speaker, and the speaker will be muted once time is up. We had no pre-registered requests for comments by the public, so staff, you may proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Smoker. The next item on our agenda is approval of Board of Directors regular meeting minutes from March 18th, 2020, which can be found on page 4 of your material.
Motion to approve.
We have a motion to approve. Do I have a second?
Seconded.
We have a motion and a second. Are there any additions, deletions, or corrections? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
President English, because this is a virtual meeting, staff highly recommends that we do a roll call vote, where I would call everybody's name and take their vote individually, if that's okay with you.
That's fine.
Okay. Please say yes or no after your name is called. Director English?
Yes.
Director Doring Ahern?
Yes.
Director Hardin?
Yes.
Director Hardy?
Yes.
Director Kemp? Director Mechanic? Director Mechanic? The motion passes 4-0.
Thank you. Public comment section. Dave, have you already read the rules into the record?
I did.
Okay, thank you. Is there any public comment available? Anyone interested?
No, sir, there was no one pre-registered to speak.
Okay, great. Hearing none, we'll move to the Streetcar System Performance Report for May 2020, found on page 8. Do I recognize Mr. Allen?
Thank you, sir. For May, we had 46.25 missed trips. With the exception of 4 of those trips, that was all due to a shortage of operators due to the COVID-19. The other 4 trips were due to, on May 21st, the motorman of Streetcar 434 made a reverse movement before passing through the switch in front of the channel side. The rear truck of the streetcar started up the opposite track. The motorman stopped the movement before any damage was done, and there was a slight disruption to the service due to maintenance needing to inspect the car before it was moved. In May, there were no reported late departures, and we did not provide any special service in May. We had 6 wheelchair boardings, and as far as system changes go, 2 new motormen graduated from training on May 15th. This is significant because it's the first time we've had a full roster of motormen since we started the extended service. And the only other real change that you should know about is that Streetcar 429 was prepared for shipment to GOMECO for evaluation of its accident repair from February 1st. And we hope the car will be shipped by the end of this month. Does anyone have any questions?
I have 2 questions. The first is, I didn't hear the end of your sentence. You hope the car will be shipped by when?
It's expected to leave here in the next 2 weeks.
Does it travel by truck or train?
It'll be loaded on a truck. We're actually, it would have moved sooner, but GOMECO doesn't have any room for it until they ship one of the GOMECO or the Galveston cars out. And the truck driver is going to deliver the Galveston car, come over here and pick up our car and take it back to GOMECO.
Thank you. My second question is, are you currently experiencing any shortage of operators or operational staff?
We are currently down 2 operators, one because of the CARE Act. He'll be off till July 20th. And I have another motorman that's off because of an injury.
Does anyone else have any questions for Mr. Allen?
I do not see any hands raised, President English.
Thank you, Danielle, and thank you, Mr. Allen. The next item on our agenda is the President's report. I really don't have anything in particular to report, so we'll move on to the Interim Chief Executive Officer's report. Ms. Stewart?
Thank you, President English. Good afternoon, everyone. During these challenging times, we are indeed inspired by the collective resilient spirit of our HEART employees. We're thankful for our numerous community of supporters, patrons, and partners. With the fiscal year being reviewed and amidst COVID-19 pandemic, we continue to face many challenges. As HEART experiences a myriad of both internal and external financial pressures, the source of funding helps us to ensure the day-to-day operations can continue. Overall, the ridership and fare box collection suffered more than a 60% decline since March 15, 2020, and recovery continues to be slow and unpredictable. But this report has some of the highlights of the streetcar operations. We fulfilled our mission to provide transit service during these unprecedented times that included both COVID-19 and civil protests. Service schedule adjustments were made across all modes of transportation to balance the delivery of service, the reduced ridership due to business closures in Ybor and along the streetcar route, the various executive orders, employee absenteeism, and operating with the reduced workforce as indicated by Mr. Abrams. The HEART Maintenance Department followed the same disinfecting and enhanced cleaning procedures for our streetcars as we use for the other modes of service. The only addition for the streetcars that the service attendants were able to disinfect the cars at shift change if the car was empty, and most of them were. Initially, there was overtime for service attendants to assure that someone was available during most of the service time. We had a spring bid shift that went into effect April 19, 2020, and it adjusted the schedules to help eliminate any overtime need related to the streetcar. Next slide, please. Regarding ridership, these are the numbers that compared fiscal year 2019 to fiscal year 2020. And as you can see, in May 2019, we had 52,000, and in May 2020, we had 22,000. Based on the daily reports I received on streetcar ridership trends, on June 16th, our actual ridership was 587, and the average daily ridership for June to date 2020 is 676, and that's down by about 77% compared to last year. Regarding the modified schedules, on May 20th, we went to a Friday and Saturday service modified to end at 11, and then the service was further modified on April 1 with the service ending at 9 p.m. every day of the week in response to the Safer at Home orders. Then we had a reset starting June 12th. The service was extended back to 11 p.m. Every day of the week. During the protests and the city curfew, we had to adjust the service to protect the patrons and the property from any potential threats. Service ended at 6:45 p.m. on May 31st due to protests in downtown Tampa, and on June 5th, it ended at 3:30 p.m. due to protests in Ybor that was scheduled to begin at Centennial Park. We also sent the employees home to secure the building. The protests that were planned on June 6th, we made an adjustment on the first two runs of the day, and then we continued with our regular service after the protest had ended at the Amalie Arena.
Thank you, Ms. Stewart.
Okay, I have a little bit more.
All right, go ahead.
I'm sorry, just two more slides. One is a transportation blitz where the HEART's transportation team handed out approximately 300 bottles of water to bus, van, and streetcar motormen on June 9th and on June 12th to encourage hydration. The transit supervisors and the managers passed out the bottles of water as they were leaving the garage that day. The upcoming event that will involve the streetcar is on June 18th at 3 p.m., when we will join other transit agencies as part of the American Transit Association's Sound the Horn, recognition of the heroic efforts and actions of our public transportation employees who continue to perform despite the continual rise in COVID-19. And so at 3 p.m. on that Thursday, all Hearts buses, vans, and streetcars in service will simultaneously, for 2 seconds, sound their horn around the country. And so this includes my report, and we are inviting the community to also join us in this Heroes Moving Heroes and Sound the Alarm effort. Any questions?
Very nice. Thank you so much. At this point, let me move to legal and legislative reports, number 7 on our agenda. Mr. Smokel will present and discuss the action described on page 10 of your package. Smoker?
I'm sorry. Mr. Chairman, you have before you a resolution seeking approval of a 9th Amendment to the agreement between Tampa Historic Streetcar and Vector Media Transit, LLC, for advertising space on streetcar vehicle stations and naming rights. If you'll recall, in November of 2019, the board approved a 6-month extension of the existing contract with Vector Media. The reason for the 6-month extension was that we wanted to explore the possibility of folding our Vector Media contract into Hart's contract with Vector Media or with whomever they may ultimately negotiate a contract with. Primarily due to the pandemic at this point, we have not had the ability to really focus on that particular issue. I spoke with Ms. Stewart about it, and I think we both agreed ultimately the best thing to do is to go ahead and extend the existing agreement another 6 months through December 31st of 2020, and hopefully by that time we will have a chance to explore the possibilities with Hart of folding our services and integrating them with theirs. So what we're asking for is for the board to approve the resolution, extending the agreement for another 6 months, and authorize me to present it to Vector Media for their approval.
David, will you go ahead and read the resolution, please?
Certainly. This is resolution number R2020-06-03. It's a resolution to ratify the 9th Amendment to the agreement between THS and Vector Media, formerly Direct Media, to sell advertising space on streetcar vehicles, stations, and naming rights. Whereas THS operates the TECO line streetcar system on behalf of the City of Tampa, consisting of 2.7 miles of track, 11 station stops, 9 replica streetcar vehicles, and 1 Bernie Breezer vehicle, hereafter the streetcar system. And THS and Vector acknowledge that pursuant to various agreements creating THS, A, the City of Tampa owns the station stops and trucks which are a part of the streetcar system, and B, Hart, hereafter defined, owns the streetcars that run on the streetcar system, and in each case, the City of Tampa and Hart have allowed THS to sell advertising space, hereafter defined, and to obtain sponsorships, hereafter defined, within the streetcar system. And whereas THS desires to sell advertising space on and about the vehicles and stations used to operate the streetcar system to businesses and other interested parties in order to collect fees for the funding of the operations of the streetcar system, hereafter advertising space. And whereas THS desires to attain sponsorships for the streetcar system, which may include, among other things, exclusive naming rights on the vehicles and stations used to operate the streetcar system, to businesses and other interested parties in order to collect donations for funding the existing endowment for operations of the streetcar system, hereafter sponsorships. And whereas Vector has special expertise in the sale of advertising space and obtaining sponsorships and desires to act as the sales agent to assist THS in the selling and obtaining of same in accordance with the terms and prices established from time to time by THS, subject to the terms and conditions of the agreement. And whereas THS and Vector desire to set forth the manner in which Vector shall be compensated for the sale of the advertising space and donation of sponsorship in the agreement, and whereas the agreement was set to expire on July 1, 2020, and THS and Vector agreed to extend the agreement for 6 months pursuant to the terms of the Ninth Amendment. And whereas the agreement is extended for a period of 6 months and shall now expire on December 31st, 2020, the agreement is hereby extended, shall remain in full force and effect in accordance with its existing terms pursuant to the Ninth Amendment. Now therefore be it resolved by the Board of Directors of the Tampa Historic Streetcar, Inc., that Section 1, the Board of Directors approves the Ninth Amendment of the agreement between THS and Vector Media Transit, LLC, to sell advertising space on streetcar vehicle stations and naming rights. Section 2, the officers of the corporation are authorized to undertake such actions and sign such contracts and other documents with such changes as are deemed necessary or appropriate to carry out the intent and accomplish the purpose of the foregoing resolution. Section 3, the resolution shall take effect immediately upon its adoption, passed and adopted by the Board of Directors of the Tampa Historic Streetcar, Inc. on June 17, 2020.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions? Hearing none, may I have a motion for approval, please?
So moved.
I believe we have a motion and a second. Roll call vote, please.
I apologize. Who seconded the motion?
I have no idea.
I'll second the motion. This is Cal.
Thank you, Director
Okay.
Hardy.
So
Please
we have
say,
a motion and a second. Go ahead, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
oh, no, go ahead, President English. I was just going to start the roll call vote.
Yeah, go ahead. That's
Okay.
fine.
Please say yes or no after your name is called. Director English?
Yes?
Director Doring-Ahern?
Yes.
Director Harden?
Yes.
Director Hardy?
Yes.
Director Kemp? Director Mechanic? The motion passes 4-0.
Thank you very much. Next is approval of action item on page 30. Ms. Reyes Burkhart, you are recognized to make the presentation.
Good afternoon, President English and Board of Directors. This is Ruthie Reyes Burkhart, Deputy Chief of Transportation. Coming before you today with an action item to move forward a resolution of the approval of the fifth one-year extension of the operator's agreement for the TECO line streetcar system. The THS contracts with HART to operate the TECO line system, and the current extension of the operator's agreement expires this September 30, 2020. So the purpose of the item is to approve the renewal of the fifth one-year extension to be effective October 1, 2020. The recommendation is that the Board of Directors review and approve this this fifth one-year extension of the agreement, and to move this to the next steps would be your approval for a one-year renewal, and then we would move to the HART Board of Directors on July 2020 for approval to be executed by both parties.
Motion approved, Adam Harden.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any comments?
Question, are there any terms of the agreement being changed, or is it identical?
The current terms are identical, sir. I apologize, President English, for interjecting. But yes, Director Mechanic, there are no changes to the current terms to the contract. We are simply going for the annual renewal, if you will, and adoption of another one-year extension on this contract. But we would like to indicate that the current contract does have a 270-day requirement if we wanted to begin discussions about any changes into the next contract Clearly, we are way out of line with the discussion for that at this time of the year, given the expiration of this current contract. So we would begin after September and in future months prior to the 270-day timeline of a next contract, which would be sometime in December of 2020, begin discussions with THS and the parties of whether any changes should come into the next contract. But for this contract, there are no changes.
Follow-up question. Has there been any, I don't recall any from Hart's or from THS's perspective of any issues that we are considering changing. Are you aware of any, or is the staff making any recommendations for changes?
We do not currently we're not aware of any specific issue. We're strictly taking a look at the existing contract, and with the service levels that have changed within the last 3 years back when we enhanced these service levels and increased the hour and frequencies, we're just wanting to make sure that that aligns with the next contract, and if there's any funding or costing that should be relooked at. But there isn't a specific item that we are looking into.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And just to be clear, everyone, this is Resolution R 2020-0604.
Yes, sir.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye. Oh, roll call, I suppose. Roll call.
Thank you, President English. Please say yes or no after your name is called. President English?
Yes.
Director Doring Ahern?
Yes.
Director Hardin?
Yes.
Director Hardy?
Yes.
Director Kemp? Director Mechanic?
Yes.
The motion passes 5-0. Thank you.
Thank you. The next item on our agenda is a presentation from Ms. Stiglich, the fiscal year 2021 Hart THS tentative budget.
Good afternoon, President English and board members. For record, Cindy Stiglich, interim CFO for Hart. Today before you is, for your consideration, is the tentative FY21 Hart and THS operating budget. Next slide, please. Let me start by highlighting some of the assumptions and considerations that went into developing next year's budget, starting with the most obvious and unknown impact right now, which would be COVID-19. As we enter the fourth quarter of the fiscal year of FY20, it's hard to say exactly what the service will look like on October 1st, but it is our hope and expectation that we'll return to some level of normalcy, which led us to develop a budget that would be essentially flat to our FY20 pre-COVID service. FY21 is also going to mark our third and final year of the service development grant that was given to us by FDOT for the increased and enhanced frequent service, also allowing our patrons to ride the streetcar for free. The CSX insurance rate that we brought to you back in March through a budget amendment will also continue to be assessed at a more than doubled rate of that was assessed in FY19. With respect to service, again, no service changes are planned for FY21 different from those that were put forth in April of FY19. I'll demonstrate to you what that looks like on the next slide, but you have seen that same service level presented in FY19 and 20. As far as ridership projections go, as Interim CEO Ms. Stewart mentioned in her report, COVID-19 has dramatically affected the number of trips that are expected to be realized in FY20. 824,000 trips were forecasted for FY20. As of April, that number of trips was projected to be about 200,000 trips less than anticipated for the full fiscal year. Returning to a more normal condition in FY21, we could expect the number of trips to go up to, approximately 790,000, 800,000 trips, but that's still a decrease of about 5% for what was originally projected in FY20 pre-COVID-19. And then, as always, our final goal in developing any budget is to look for ways to provide more and effective service, especially considering our constrained financial situation as well as the unknown landscape in the environment. Next slide, please. So this is the proposed FY21 service model, which, as you can see, is unchanged for what has been proposed since April of FY19. The number of hours changed is slightly based on holidays or the number of weekdays that are realized, but essentially the service is the same. Next slide, please. Operating statistics, again, the most notable difference here is the dramatic increase that we experienced in FY19 as a result of the service increases and the free fares. Again, having some impact in FY20 projected, but hoping to recalibrate and regain ridership in FY21. Next slide. This is the Hart's portion of the streetcar budget for FY21. As you can see, it's relative to FY20, the amended budget. And there's an amended column here because, again, we brought a budget amendment back to the board in March for the streetcar CSX insurance, but it does not really affect the Hart budget. It only affected the THS City of Tampa budget. So you don't really see an impact in the amended, different from what you saw in the FY20 adopted budget for Hart. I've included this year a projected FY20 because prior to COVID, we were actually trending a little higher than the amended budget by about $200,000, and that was primarily attributed to having to utilize fixed route buses and operators as a bridge for service while the streetcar tracks and the ties were being repaired. I did talk with the city. I've alerted them that this is a potential overage, but we are going to just continue to monitor the situation through the summer to see if we can constrain and contain the expenses going forward. And again, with COVID-19, I do not anticipate that we will go over budget, but the city has been in those conversations with me so that they are aware that that's a potential. And again, that was an anomaly for FY20, having to utilize the fixed route bus bridge. The actual other difference here I want to point out is that Hart is going to reinstate the $100,000 contribution from its state block grant that we discontinued in FY19 when FDOT gave us the $890,000 a year for 3 years. We are going to reinstate that, thereby reducing the THS contribution by about the same amount. And we're doing that because we understand that CSX insurance premium was not expected. We felt that it would be the most equitable thing to do to help defray that cost, knowing that City of Tampa would have to take that out of fund balance. Next slide, please. So this is the THS portion of the annual operating budget proposed for FY21. Looking at the revenues, the non-ad valorem assessment, which is the special service district line at the top, that is expected to increase over FY20 amended by approximately $57,000, yet the streetcar advertising is also projected to be about $54,000 less. You'll notice, again, the required contribution by the City of Tampa will be approximately $100,000 less than the amended budget. And again, that's because Hart is contributing that $100,000 of its block grant, as I mentioned. The FY21 proposed expenses were provided by City of Tampa. Again, you can see the CSX insurance more than doubled the FY19 premium. Changes in attorney, accounting fees, advertising fees, again, they are estimating those. They somewhat net each other or offset each other relative to this year's budget, such that the net budget is approximately $100,000 less than the FY20 amended. Next slide. For FY21 are going to remain the same as the current staffing levels at 33 FTEs. Next slide. I wanted to finish the presentation with this slide. It's a slide that we've never presented to the THS board in previous conversations regarding budget, but I thought it was really important to illustrate that while HART's financial contribution to the operation of the streetcar is only about $300,000 a year, outside of our regular, our FDOT grant, that was, for the 3 years, we do contribute much more of our federal funding to the maintenance of cars, and the barn, the infrastructure this year in the railroad ties. Our FTA formula funding, section 5337, which is the state of good repair, provides the funding for the vehicle parts and other equipment on an annual basis. It's also providing the funding that we'll be able to use to completely overhaul the 4 streetcars that are now, 2 of which are now being worked on. That's an approximate $2.4 million investment that we are investing to maintain the streetcars. And then the infrastructure maintenance, again, in the railroad ties is what you see for FY20 and again in FY21. And that's approximately $550,000. Next slide. So that completes my presentation. These are the next steps in order to promote the budget and get it adopted. The City of Tampa always requests us to provide a tentative budget to them at the beginning of July for incorporation into the City of Tampa's budget. Then we bring it back to you in August for adoption, and then the final adoption is done in September at the board in public hearing in September. So at this time, I'll conclude my presentation and take any questions you have.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
I have a question. Cindy, I just read in the paper, I think it was today, that the City Council sitting as a CRA is considering sunsetting the Channel District CRA, which would also negate the TIF. And as you know, we have from each of the 3 CRAs that the streetcar serves, we collect a contribution from the city of $150,000 each.
Correct.
So have you been informed about this possibility? And because I see you still have the $450 in your projected revenues.
Right, and no, in developing, the numbers for 21, that was never brought to my attention. So I have to say I was a little surprised that was proposed but not discussed with me.
What would be the protocol for us making that inquiry of the city? Should we do that through Director Hardy, or should staff do a direct communication to the senior administration? I mean, I don't know exactly historically what the interface has been, but.
Typically, I have communicated with Lee Huffstetter on matters that would pertain to the city the streetcar budget, which I can certainly reach out to him and his staff to see if there's been anything solidified with respect to that, because they will be taking their budget, I understand, sometime in July to City Council.
Yes, and I guess there might be some assumption that we don't need that money because of the DOT grant, but of course, the DOT grant is going to expire, I guess, in a year and a half or something along those lines. And also, I think the award of the grant was conditioned upon the streetcar receiving the same funding sources prior to the DOT grant. So it seems like it's a very significant impact to our operations.
Well, it would be, and again, I have to say, looking forward, I am concerned that at the end of FY21, that $890,000, which has been so important to not only allow us to extend and enhance the service, but also give our patrons free fares. So without that, yes, we will take a tremendous impact to the budget, that we need to start thinking about even now. But I'm not sure that that FDOT funding was necessarily contingent on any other funding source. But even a $150,000 impact would be significant because, as I mentioned, we are reinstating a $100,000 contribution from our block grant, which, frankly, we could use. So we're doing that as a way of kind of mitigating what has been a tremendous impact to the city's budget, which is the CSX insurance. So without that additional CRA or without that CRA contribution, it will have to come from, most likely, from the City of Tampa fund balance.
Let me ask a couple of questions. The decision about the CRAs, the Channel District, sometimes haven't really been resolved. They tend to shut down the Channel District and divert the funds. Well, once in the tax increment district, they'll have $17 million a year to do with what they want elsewhere in the city, perhaps, and perhaps it's still some of it in the Channel District. Downtown, they have not made a decision. I think it is important for you to talk. Should also talking to the CRA manager. He's very knowledgeable of what's going on. And what they to the DOT, and this is related to a question on how the part was intended as an opportunity to the community that without funding could care about more people, and it certainly has done that. Even today, the numbers are than they were in previous years. That money was also tied to the thought process to be in a position to set this through the system and find determination about operation funding for a much lower system. I don't know what state the extension design is in. To hear how it felt about it. I think HARP also is involved with this design and the extension. You all need to start thinking right now about DOT's position on this and whether there is a possibility that money could be extended. How does it coordinate with the extension? And I don't think you have a lot of time to waste, but you do have all summer. So I would really implore park management.
Mike, hello, Mike, Chairman. Mr. Chairman, can you hear me?
Yes.
I'm not really hearing anything here.
Director McCann, this is Cindy. I really did not hear President English, so I apologize if he's giving direction that I was not able to understand what he said.
Can you hear me now?
I hear you now, Mike, but you were going in and out.
President English, if I could suggest that you turn your video off. As the host, I'm getting a message that the broadband width is too much with the video. So if you maybe turn that off, we'll be able to hear you better.
How do I turn it off?
Push the button with the camera on it.
How's that? Is that better?
Yes, sir. That's much better. Thank you.
Yeah, sure. Okay, let me just repeat what I said, but make it shorter. That was a great presentation, Cindy, and I appreciate it. There are a couple things. You do need to talk to Lee, and Heart Management needs to talk to City Transportation and the CRA manager, to get a sense of how they think things are going to go with the two CRAs, and whether a commitment to the streetcar could continue regardless of what pot of money it comes out of. I can hear other people. The other two things I mentioned.
Yeah, if whoever's not got their phone muted, we can hear it, and it's very distracting, Mr. English.
She's chattering in the background and laughing and stuff. So the other item is also directed to Cal Hardy. That money came to us, I thought, amazingly, so we could demonstrate that we could, with proper funding, have a viable system that could carry a lot of people. It was also assumed that we'd be preparing to undertake an extension.
President.
Mike, you're not being heard.
President English, this is Danielle from Hart. Another option that you can use, since I know you're using your computer to in the meeting, is you could use your phone with the phone number and the dial-in.
All right. Just a second.
Is anybody here?
We're still here. Danielle, is there any way you can call him and patch him in?
Unfortunately, ma'am, our system is not set up that way. But it does appear that he has he's left the meeting entirely. I don't know if we want to give him another moment to get on, or if we want the vice president, vice chair, Ms. Doringer. Oh,
Okay, I'm back. Can you hear me?
yes, sir, we can.
Yeah.
All right, sorry about that. I have no idea what happened, but, all right. I'll try this one more time and keep it short. That was a great presentation, Cindy, and it was very complete. I want to be sure we all get a copy of that. You should talk to Lee, and someone should also talk to the city's CRA manager to get a clear feeling for what the city council intends. My guess is that we'll be in those discussions next spring to do with continuing this funding for the streetcar, whether it comes from the general fund or from a TIF, tax increment district. The second thing is, I would highly suggest that at some point in the not-too-distant future, you meet with DOT to see what their intentions might be. That money, and this is also directed to Calvin Hardy, when they gave us that money, it was to demonstrate that with proper funding we could make our system viable in terms of ridership, which I believe that we have certainly shown, short of the problems created by the coronavirus. However, I think it also intended that it would dovetail with a new streetcar extension and considerations about operating funds for that new system. I don't know what the status is of our design. I don't know whether we're prepared to go forward and what the schedule of that is any longer. But all those things are things that Hart and city staff need to think about, reach out, and then I think our board would really like to hear about all of those things. The final thing is the special assessment district will come up for public hearing on August the 9th, along with the special service districts for the West Shore area and for downtown area. And Hart staff has typically organized outreach to the CRA advisory boards and the Downtown Business Managers Association, which is managed by the Downtown Partnership. We are now in mid-June, and I've seen or heard nothing about those, about how we are prepared to do that. It's also accompanied by marketing material. So Ruthie has, in the past, been part of that, and so all of those things are things that we really need to hear about, certainly by next month, if we can.
Mr. Chairman, can I piggyback on those comments a minute?
You may.
I think we obviously have this short-term concern, and I think everything that's been said and suggested is the right thing to be doing. But I'd like to add something to the discussion. I think, and I don't mean to volunteer you, Mr. Chairman, but I think given the fact that the city is apparently still actively pursuing the streetcar extension, and given the fact that we can't necessarily rely on the DOT grant to continue in perpetuity, I'd like to make a motion that the chairman start discussions with the city as to how we deal with the long-term prospects for the streetcar. We have a short-term problem, but we also have a lot of questions about the long-term, and I think this is as good a time as any for you to begin to have those discussions. This is not just a staff-to-staff kind of discussion, I think. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, I don't disagree. I'll be happy to. I'm a little reluctant to reach out to the mayor just because she's so busy with everything else, but I'll look into that. Cindy, and I'm not sure who else on Hart staff is going to do this, but I would like you all, as I just mentioned, reach out to Lee Hofstetter and the CRA manager and find out what's going on with the CRAs. Hart staff, please get back to me on the outreach that we'll do for the special assessment district prior to the public hearing on August 9th. And I highly recommend that you all reach out to DOT and get some feeling for where they are. We do have another year, and it's not even a year and a half, and I hate to get into that third year without some sense of where the streetcar system extension is and how DOT feels about it all. So yes, I will do that and report back to the board by the next meeting. Cal, do you have anything to add about the streetcar project? Hello?
Mr. English, this is Carolyn Stewart with Hart. I can tell you that we had a project briefing from the City of Tampa on June 9th at 1:30, and we do have that project briefing on the Hart Strategic Planning Committee and the Hart Board meeting coming up. And this is only the second meeting that we've had from the city with the real parties at the table. That's all I can tell you at this point.
Well, would you please send our board that briefing as well, please?
Sure, we can send you the briefing that we got on the 9th. But we do have some questions, and they will be coming before the Hart Board on their schedule in August regarding a letter of endorsement of the project, but it's scheduled to come before the Hart Board before August regarding their presentation.
Well, please, thank you. Please keep us in the loop on all this. It's really important to everybody in our board. Okay. Do we have to approve anything at the moment, Cindy?
No, I will just provide this tentative budget to the City of Tampa for consideration at their council meeting in July.
Yeah, that's great. And send us your presentation. It was excellent.
Thank you. I believe it was in your packet, but I can confirm that with Danielle or have it sent separately.
Okay, that would be great. Thanks. Danielle, I can't see the agenda. What do we do next?
Well, President English, there's actually an active motion on the floor that was made by Director Mechanic. There is no second, and we haven't taken a vote on it yet.
What was the motion? Please repeat it.
My motion was to ask that the chairman directly interface with the city regarding the short-term and long-term questions about the economic feasibility of the streetcar.
All right. Do we have a second?
This Director Harden, I'll second the motion for discussion. So my question would be, well, so first I'd like to make a comment, I guess, in light of the idea of sunsetting the Channelside CRA. I don't think that doesn't make sense for the city to do, given that the area is built out and their dog park is done and the things that a CRA would normally do are coming to a close. But I think it would be important for us to communicate that one of the things that income has been benefiting the streetcar and point that out to the current city council. So I think it would be a good time to do that. In other words, they could, sunset the CRA, sweep the funds back into general funds, and still pay the same amount they've been subsidizing the streetcar, and have more money in general funds at the same time. So it's
exactly.
So I just hope that somebody can educate the current chairman and Chairman Maniscalco, and I think that this motion was maybe made by the newer Councilman Carlson, and so it probably would be a good idea for you to interface with them and let them know that information as they're moving forward. And then additionally, I think I guess my question, and I will support this motion if the chairman thinks it's a good idea. But additionally, can we, as the streetcar board, get the same briefing that the Hart Board's going to get, or since some of us aren't on both, or would it be beneficial to invite President English to the Hart meeting where we're going to get an update from the city on their streetcar plans. So I'll be quiet.
Well, thank you. No, thank you for all those comments. I would be delighted to be invited to hear that presentation. I don't think that our CRA contributions are an issue this year, although the City Council is new and should be well briefed prior to August 9th. I think the issue will be our budget next year, and of course next year means that the FDOT money is disappearing, and so we have a lot of issues to deal with before this time next year. So thank you for your comments. And any other comments? Okay, we have a motion and a second. Yeah.
Director Mechanic still has his hand raised.
Oh, no, I just forgot to take it down.
I do not see any further comments then.
Well, then, a roll call vote, please.
Absolutely. Please say yes or no after your name is called. President English?
Yes.
Director Doring-Ahern?
Yes.
Director Hardin?
Yes.
Director Hardy?
Yes.
Director Kemp? Director Mechanic?
Yes.
The motion passes 5-0.
Thank you. What's next on our agenda?
Next on your agenda, President English, is the Vector Media Sales Report with Mr. Tyler Rowland.
Mr. Rowland?
Good afternoon, Chair. The update for Vector Media sales activity for May of 2020 has been 60% to THS. To this point has been $81,930. And Vector Media revenue, 40% of that, 40% total is $54,620. Total amount paid out to Vector Media at this point is $136,550. No new advertising revenue to report other than they are potentially looking at still some Super Bowl activity since that is still in play at this moment. With Greco Plaza, they have the Tampa Bay Sports Authority is looking into doing a big advertisement wrap within the entire Greco station. That is the newest advertising that we've been discussing with them.
Any questions from anyone?
I do not see any hands raised.
Thank you, Tyler. What's next, Danielle?
Next, President English, you guys have, there's compliance reports provided in section 11, starting on page 45. It's the marketing report for May of 2020, and then the City of Tampa financial statements for the month ending April 30th, 2020, and then it's just old business, new business, and adjournment.
Okay, is there any new business to conduct? Any old business to conduct? Any business at all to conduct? Are there any questions? Are there any questions from about the reports that were submitted? Hearing none, I will entertain a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
We have a motion.
Second, Hardin.
And a second. Roll call, please.
Please say yes or no after your name is called. President English?
Yes.
Director Doring-Ahern?
Yes.
Director Hardin?
Yes.
Director Hardy? Director Hardy?
Sorry, I was on mute.
Director Mechanic?
Yes.
The motion passes 5-0.
Thank you so much. I want to thank all of you for coming and apologize for my lack of video connectivity. And I declare this meeting adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.